Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. A wedding filled with hope, love, and the promise of a new beginning. Yet everything shifts when an unexpected figure appears. What happens when the father, long absent from Lytuna's life, suddenly stands before her on the most important day? Will Lytuna choose to forgive the past or protect her fragile present with Alex and baby Henry? And how will Alex respond when the weight of family secrets threatens their happiness? Stay with us until the end to uncover the truth hidden in silence. And don't forget to subscribe. Your support will help us reach 1,000 followers and bring more unforgettable stories to life. The farm welcomed them back with the hush of dusk, as if the trees themselves leaned in to listen. Lytuna stepped across the threshold carrying the weight of fear that had not yet lifted. Henry's soft breathing pressed against her chest. The baby, once lost, was now home again, and every corner of the house seemed to sigh with relief. Alex followed close, his presence firm yet gentle, like the steady ground beneath shifting sand. He spoke little, only offering to turn on the fan, to help with the baby, to stand guard against what might come. His voice was calm, but beneath it lingered a quiet vow. From now on, you won't face this alone. Lytuna's hands trembled as she laid Henry down. Gratitude surged through her, toward the police who had returned her child, toward Alex who had stood unyielding beside her. Yet the shadow of her former mother-in-law still hovered, an echo of intrusion and loss. Fear whispered that the nightmare might return, but Alex's gaze anchored her. In the silence, Henry stirred, hungry, and Lytuna fed him with the tenderness of someone who knew the fragility of joy. Alex watched, his eyes softening with every small movement, as if the child's steady breathing was proof of a future worth protecting. The air thickened with a sense of beginning. What had been almost broken was pieced back together, not with grandeur, but with the quiet miracle of return. In that moment, the three of them, mother, child, and the man who promised to stay, formed the fragile outline of something new, something that might one day be called a family. Morning light filtered through the wooden shutters, casting long stripes across the room where Henry slept. Alex arrived quietly, carrying something bulky in his arms. Lytuna, still weary from sleepless nights, looked up in surprise. He set the object down gently, a crib, polished, sturdy, its pale wood catching the sun. "I saw Henry lying on the bed," Alex said softly, his hands brushing the frame as if presenting a treasure. "He will crawl soon. It's dangerous to leave him there. This will be safer." The words, simple as they were, pressed into Lytuna's heart. It wasn't just wood and nails, it was thoughtfulness, an offering of peace. She touched the crib's edge, her fingertips trembling. "You thought of everything," she whispered. Henry stirred, tiny fists opening and closing in sleep, unaware of the gift laid before him. Alex leaned down, his large hands awkwardly but tenderly adjusting the pillow inside. Lytuna watched, caught between gratitude and a fragile warmth blooming in her chest. This man, once a stranger, now stood as though he belonged to every quiet detail of her life. The crib clicked into place. Alex stepped back, pride flashing across his face, not for himself, but for the sense of safety it promised. Lytuna imagined Henry growing, laughing, reaching through the wooden bars toward a world less cruel. For the first time in weeks, she exhaled without trembling. The room, once heavy with fear, now glowed with something lighter. It was not joy in its loudest form, but a quiet assurance. A small cradle stood between them, holding not only Henry's dreams, but the fragile beginnings of a shared tomorrow. The day unfolded with the rhythm of the countryside, slow, deliberate, yet filled with purpose. Outside, the chickens scattered in a flurry of feathers while Alex reached into the coop, his movement steady. Lytuna bent over the garden, gathering handfuls of green leaves, her hair catching the sunlight like threads of copper. Their voices floated in the air, light and unhurried, weaving into the simple melody of work done side by side. By noon, the kitchen filled with warmth and the scent of broth simmering. Alex chopped the chicken with careful precision, while Lytuna tended to the soup, her hands moving with practiced familiarity. The house, once marked by tension and sleepless nights, seemed to reclaim its pulse through these domestic rituals. They sat across from each other at the worn wooden table. Henry, still asleep in his crib, breathed evenly, his small presence anchoring every moment. Alex lifted his bowl, his eyes meeting Lytuna's. "Eat," he urged gently, his tone carrying more than just an invitation. It was a plea for her to find strength again. Lytuna's gaze softened, though shadows lingered behind her eyes. She took a spoonful, tasting not only the food, but the care woven into it. For a brief heartbeat, the silence between them felt whole, no longer empty. And yet, as laughter nearly touched the room, memory returned. The image of Henry nearly lost, the cold absence she had endured, pressed into her chest. Alex noticed the tremor in her hands. Quietly, he said, "Don't hold on to fear. We've found him. He's here, safe." The meal continued, ordinary and extraordinary all at once. Two people and a child sharing food, and perhaps, unknowingly, building a home. Night descended gently over the farm, the cicadas humming in the distance. Inside, the oil lamp flickered, throwing shadows across the walls. Lytuna sat near Henry's crib, watching the baby's chest rise and fall in steady rhythm. The sound should have comforted her, yet her heart beat unevenly, tangled in fear that clung like a shadow. Alex leaned against the doorway, his gaze steady on her. "You're safe now," he said softly. "Henry is safe, and your ex-mother-in-law, perhaps she acted out of love, not malice. Maybe forgiveness could bring you peace." The words hung in the air, heavy and impossible. Lytuna lowered her eyes, her fingers brushing against Henry's blanket. Could she forgive? The memory of searching through the night, the helpless terror of not knowing where her child was, those wounds had not yet closed. And yet, she remembered the trembling hands of an old woman, whispering she only missed her grandson. Her chest tightened. Forgiveness felt like surrender, yet holding on to anger only deepened her exhaustion. Silence stretched, thick as fog. Alex did not press her, only crossed the room to sit beside her, close enough for her to feel the warmth of his presence. Lytuna turned to look at him, her eyes swimming with conflict. His hand brushed hers, grounding her. She wanted to believe in this quiet strength, this man who had walked through the chaos with her. Still, the war inside her raged, a battle between resentment and the fragile desire for peace. In the hush of the night, her tears fell soundlessly, each drop a reflection of the choice she had yet to make. Days melted into weeks, and the rhythm of the farm began to breathe again. The fields shimmered under golden light, chickens clucked in lazy circles, and the air was filled with the scent of earth and fresh water. Yet beneath that everyday calm, something tender was quietly unfolding. Alex became more than a protector. He was there in every gesture, holding Henry when Tuna's arms grew tired, repairing the wooden fence before she could worry, leaving small traces of care she hadn't known how to ask for. Tuna felt her resistance slowly softening, like ice surrendering to spring. Henry thrived in their shared presence. His laughter, small, unsteady at first, echoed through the rooms, binding them closer with invisible threads. In his smile, Tuna glimpsed not only her child's joy but also the reflection of a life she might dare to choose, one not ruled by fear but by quiet companionship. Then came the decision neither had voiced, but both had felt growing between them. Under the canopy of orchard trees, Alex spoke simply. "Let's build a home together, not just here, but in every day that follows." His words were not grand, but they carried the weight of sincerity. Tuna looked at him, her eyes shimmering with the memory of pain, yet bright with new hope. She nodded, not with certainty, but with the fragile courage of someone stepping out of the past. Preparations for their wedding began, humble, tender, filled with the laughter of neighbors and the whispered blessing of fields that had witnessed both loss and healing. The day of the wedding arrived with sunlight pouring like gold over the farm. White cloths swayed gently in the breeze, and neighbors gathered with smiles that seemed to bless the couple. Tuna, dressed simply yet radiantly, held Henry close while Alex stood beside her, his hand firm around hers. The ceremony began not with grandeur but with the quiet joy of two lives intertwining, watched over by a child whose presence made it complete. Yet, just as vows lingered on their lips, the air shifted. A ripple moved through the crowd as an unfamiliar figure stepped forward. The murmurs fell into silence when Tuna's eyes widened. It was her father. The years of absence weighed heavier than any spoken word. His face, weathered by time, carried both regret and defiance. For a heartbeat, Tuna could not breathe. The farm, the laughter, even Alex's warmth seemed to dissolve into the ghost of old wounds. Alex tightened his grip on her hand, his silent promise steady. "You are not alone in this." But Tuna's heart raced. Torn between shock and an ache she thought she had buried long ago. Her father's gaze locked on her, softening when it shifted to Henry, as though trying to bridge the years of distance with a single look. The guests watched in hushed anticipation, sensing that the celebration had become something else entirely, a confrontation of past and present. Tuna trembled, standing at the edge of choice, to turn away and protect what she had, or to face the man whose absence had shaped so much of her sorrow. The vows waited. Silence deepened. The future hung in the balance. The courtyard fell still, the music fading into the wind. Tuna's father stood only a few steps away, his shadow cutting across the sunlight that had bathed the ceremony. His lips parted as if to speak, yet hesitation sealed the words. Tuna's chest tightened. In his silence, she heard the echo of all the years he had not been there. Birthdays missed, tears unanswered, the weight of abandonment that had carved hollows into her heart. Alex's hand pressed gently against hers, a reminder of the present. His eyes, steady and unyielding, urged her not toward anger but toward strength. Henry stirred in her arms, blinking awake as though sensing the tension that had gripped the air. His small presence tethered her to what mattered most, the fragile but luminous world they were building together. Her father's gaze dropped, softened by regret. "I only wanted to see you," he whispered, voice brittle. The words reached her like a fragile offering, carrying no demand, only a plea for acknowledgement. Lytuna's throat ached with unspoken grief. She could not erase the years, nor could she deny the ache of longing that still lingered somewhere deep within. To forgive was not simple, to forget impossible. Yet she saw Alex beside her, solid and certain, and Henry before her, innocence unmarked by the past. She drew in a trembling breath. "This is my family," she said quietly, her voice both fragile and firm. It was not rejection, nor full embrace, but a boundary drawn with dignity. The guests lowered their eyes respectfully. Her father stepped back, swallowed by silence. Lytuna turned toward Alex and Henry, and in their presence she found the courage to step forward. The past would always linger, but the choice was hers, to live not in its shadow, but in the light she now held. And sometimes life's greatest gift is not forgetting what hurt us, but choosing what heals us.
Tử Na cùng bé Henry được cảnh sát và Alex cứu về sau biến cố bị bà ngoại cũ bắt. Sự đoàn tụ mang niềm hạnh phúc xen lẫn, nhưng Alex cũng ở bên cạnh chăm sóc hai mẹ con bằng sự ân cần. Anh mang tặng Henry chiếc cùi, món quà giản dị nhưng đầy ý nghĩa, tượng trưng cho sự an toàn và tình thương. Dựa những bữa cơm đầy đầm ấm ở nông trại, Alex khuyên Tử Na học cách tha thứ để tìm bình yên, dù trong lòng cô vẫn dằn xí trong quá khứ. Và hiện tại khi tình yêu dần nảy nở, cả hai quyết định tổ chức đám cưới. Nhưng trong ngày lễ cưới, cha ruột của Tử Na bất ngờ xuất hiện, khiến không khí lặng xuống, buộc cô phải đối diện với sự lựa chọn quay về quá khứ hay nắm lại giờ hạnh phúc của hiện tại.